Okay, folks, in this short video, you are going to be using this video to solve the challenge that I have presented you with. Now, in this video, we're going to focus on what were the causes of World War II. Like always, I'm only going to give you a very quick and very brief version of events. Let's get started. All right, so the question is, what caused World War II, and what were some of the actions that led up to it? But before we can get into that, we need to talk about how World War I ended. Now, at the end of World War I, Germany lost its military power. It was part of the Axis powers, and it was essentially blamed entirely on Germany. Even though Germany really didn't technically start the war, they were the ones that were blamed for it. Now, the Treaty of Versailles also placed the entire blame on Germany. So this treaty, which was signed in Paris, basically laid down the conditions that Germany had to follow as at the end of World War I, seeing as they were the loser. So for example, one thing Germany had to do, they were forced to pay reparations to cover losses suffered by the winning side. So they actually had to pay money to America, the French, the English, and so forth, as a sign of saying, we lost the war, here's some money. Unfortunately, after World War II, the stock market and the Great Depression happened. The Great Depression happened, the market crashed, and unfortunately further damages Germany's economy. So the Great Depression hits. Now Germany is faced with high levels of unemployment. People don't have jobs. People are having a hard time feeding their families. Mothers are unfortunately giving up their kids up for adoption because they can't pay to give them what they need. And the Great Depression not only happened in the United States, but it happened globally. So it also affected Germany. Now, this also made the crash of the American stock market helped make Adolf Hitler's rise to power much, much easier, because he could then go and try and blame a lot of these problems on other individuals, which we'll get into in a moment. Things got so bad in Germany that in this picture down below, kids would actually play with stacks of money because the paper money that they were using at the time had no value, with something that's called inflation, where kids were simply using it as toy blocks. It was very, very bad time in Germany at the time. Now, because of the Great Depression, because of the anger that a lot of individuals had towards their governments, this gave rise to dictators, which we've kind of mentioned earlier with North Korea. So in countries such as Italy and Germany, they were taken over by dictators. Nazi Germany, which most of us are extremely familiar with, which is the guy on the far left, he ended up controlling Nazi Germany. Italy was led by Benito Mussolini, which is this individual here on the third picture. The Soviet Union, which was led by Joseph Stalin, which is this individual right here, and he controlled the Soviet Union, aka Russia. And then one that you don't hear so much about, but still considered a dictator, was in Spain during this time, and he was led by Francisco Franco. Now, each one of these individuals ruled their country with an iron fist, and their citizens have few guaranteed rights. So no freedom of speech, no freedom of assembly. And these types of leaders were known as fascists. That's an extreme form of government under a dictatorship. And these are the big four in Europe at the time. Now, unfortunately, Hitler's power didn't happen overnight. He slowly worked his way into power, and he violated conditions placed on Germany from the Treaty of Versailles. Now, we'll get into why he was elected into power and so forth in a different video, but just know that he promised to bring Germany back to glory. He used people's emotions to get what he wanted. He told them, hey, we were mistreated after World War I. With me as your leader, we will go back to being the #1 country in the world. People will bow down to us. Basically told them what they wanted them to hear. And at the time, Germany really needed that. So a couple things that he began to do that violated the Treaty of Versailles. He began building the German military. One thing that the Treaty of Versailles stated is that Germany had to give up or break up its army. Another thing that Hitler started doing or stopped doing was stop paying those reparations. He said, we're not going to pay those payments anymore. And he stopped. And one thing that kind of started getting people's attention was he took over the Rhineland, which is a part of land that used to belong to Germany but lost after World War I. He began sending troops in there. Now, people were starting to get a little unsettled when he was doing this, but they decided not to do anything because they were afraid that it would eventually lead to war. The ironic thing is that it did end up leading into World War II. This was known as appeasement. They're trying to appease Hitler. Hey, if we give him what he wants now, maybe he'll back off and he'll leave the rest of the country alone, or the rest of Europe alone. Or they also thought, you know what? After the Treaty of Versailles, we did treat the Germans super, super badly. So let's let them have that. But because the rest of the world did nothing, Hitler kind of saw that as a way to just keep inching his way towards more power. Oh, they didn't do anything after I built my military? Let's push that, let's go a step further. Now let's stop paying them back. Oh, nothing happened after I stopped those payments? Let's go ahead and take over some land that was ours. Oh, nothing happened? And it just made Hitler more and more bold into the point where he invaded the country of Poland. And at that point, England and the rest of the world, along with France, had no other choice but to go to war. All right, use this video to answer and fill out that sheet. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Thanks.